Hello, hello, and welcome back to the I Come First podcast. I got to be honest with you. This episode brings me so much joy to my heart because I've coached so many women from around the world who are mamas and high achievers, and they are tired of feeling like they're running on fumes. They're wondering how to create balance between their kids, their careers, their loved ones, and themselves. So if this sounds familiar, then this episode is your wake up call. I'm your host, Amie Barsky, and today I'm here with Master Coach Brandan Padilla, who's also on a mission to help ambitious mamas and women rise from the clutches of burnout and overwhelm. Today, we are cracking open tangible takeaways from how to catch those sneaky little signs of burnout that you might be missing and how to find time for yourself even when it seems absolutely impossible on your schedule. We'll explore the game-changing impact of why it's so crucial to give yourself and your kids a safe place for emotional outlets and prepare yourself for a massive mental shift that'll have you saying goodbye to that mama guilt and finally swapping it for a sense of ease and grace. This is a refreshing take at putting yourself first because when mamas win, everybody wins. All right. Welcome back to the I Come First podcast. Today we have Brandan Padilla. I am so glad that you are here with us today. You're a mama, you're a coach, you're a powerful woman that I've experienced over the past few years. And I'm very, very interested in hearing what you have to share, specifically around the mamas who need your support in moving through whatever the heck is coming up for them. So let's do a quick intro and then we'll jump right into some awesome questions.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here. Such an honor, Amy. Like you said, we've been in each other's worlds for a few years now, and it's just a beautiful thing to see this podcast come to fruition and everything that you're doing here with it. So, as Amy said, I am a solo mama who helps and supports other mamas that are high achieving, ambitious mamas that are tired of living in frustration, overwhelm, and burnout. Just bring more ease and grace into their lives.
I love that. And so you said the word burnout. I'd love to know what are some of the subtle signs that mamas might often overlook and don't even recognize that they're in burnout?
Great question. Sometimes I feel like we mamas just tend to go, go, go. We have our careers, we have our family, we have all the things that we're doing, all the schedules and all that. And it's kind of just normal for a lot of us mamas to just hold a lot.
Mm.
And I feel like we don't really see the subtle cues until we're like, have already lost it.
So it's not like a little tap on the shoulder, like, hey, pay attention to this. It's more like a two by four that might kind of sweep you off your feet kind of thing.
I have found that to be true for myself. I don't know if it's just because I'm a little bit of a more challenging learner. Like Goddess is like, boom, I'll show you. But I also have found that to be so true with the mamas that I support
Mhm.
is they're like, I don't even realize I have gotten there. And usually it comes through in how we speak to our children or our partners, how we interact, usually with those closest to
Yeah,
us.
for sure.
So usually it's us losing it over the slightest little thing. You're like, how did I go to that? How did I get here? When I was just here 5 minutes ago.
Wow. So with that being said, it sounds like the nervous system is communicating, right? And so, how does a mother's ability to regulate her own nervous system impact her capacity to one, set healthy boundaries, two, to communicate effectively with her family, with her kiddos?
Yeah. So regulating our nervous systems as mamas, and especially as mamas that are carrying and holding so much, is key. And I didn't really learn this until like 2.5, 3 years ago. So my daughter's going to be 9 at the end of October. And I didn't learn this till like about 2.5, 3 years ago. So we were well into my momming journey that I was like, oh, like I knew how to co-regulate her in a way and help her with her big emotions, but I didn't know how to listen to my body.
Mhm.
And so us having a regulated nervous system and learning what the cues are in our own body is extremely important.
Mm.
So we're not spilling that out onto our families or our children.
Would you be open to share what some of your personal cues are that let you know, "Oh, here comes some stuff. Let me go, get a handle and allow myself a space that feels good for me to come back to my center and back to, like, feeling coherent enough to be a mama."
Yeah, so some of my cues when I know that I'm not regulated, it is how I'm responding to my daughter.
Mm,
Like, am I kind of just brushing her off? Like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm doing three other things, but I'm really not giving her that attention that she needs. Like, really like saying, oh, babe, yeah. Oh, great question. And and that now I know, like, oh, shoot, I'm not really present to her. I'm present to everything else that's happening. So that's one of the signs that I know that my nervous system
yeah.
is starting to get out of my window of tolerance, if you will. I'm becoming dysregulated is that because then that means I'm doing too
Mm.
much and I need to just slow down and focus on what is in front of me, not all the millions of things that I have going on. So that's one of the cues. And also if I become just even impatient
Mm.
in the slightest. I see myself like kind of snapping. My daughter is a nonstop talker. So I also know sometimes I'm like, okay, when I'm like,
Mm.
okay, well, I might even say, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're talking quite a bit. So then I know, okay, I got to go take a pause or do something with her
Mm.
to change what's happening in my body.
I love this so much, and I wanna go back to a couple of things you mentioned, and first I wanna say, if the listener right now was nodding their head to some of the things that Brandon was saying, so was I. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've totally been in places and spaces where I've reacted versus actually taking that pause and then responding from a heartfelt place. I've just kinda let my, body go out of whack, my mind go out of whack, and not be in that open-hearted, open-minded space and just project, our crap, our stuff onto my loved ones, And it is a practice for sure. Now, Brandon, you mentioned the word window of tolerance. And for those, a listener that might not understand what that is, can you give a little brief description of what that might look like or what that is for you?
Yeah, so all of us have a window of tolerance or how our nervous system like what how much our nervous system can hold. And, I like to link it to, like, a highway maybe, and we can widen that depending on the work that we are doing with our body and make it bigger. And whether we are if we go out of that window of tolerance, let's say on the upper side of it, that means usually we're gonna react in a more aggressive way. We're in the hyper type of our emotions. If we're below the window of tolerance, that might be where it's called hypo, but what that would be considered is more of our lower vibrational emotions, like your depression, your shame, guilt might fall in there where you kind of maybe disassociate
Mm,
versus react
mm.
in if you're in the hyper. So when we have a regulated nervous system and we are being we want a larger window or larger highway to play with if we can, if you will.
I love that explanation. I love the highway thing and expanding that. It's like, do I have a single lane highway where I go to this one thing, or can I expand to multiple lanes and then make choices, make powerful choices from a conscious awareness within our own mind and our own, bodies and nervous systems and how things are starting to move because our bodies are always communicating. And I can feel, I'll speak for myself, the felt senses, the bubbling up of something or the tension of something where might feel tension in my jaw. I might feel my heart pounding. I
Yes.
might feel my chest feeling heavy or knots in my belly. These are all sensations that our bodies are communicating. And this is when we get to play with that window of tolerance, it sounds like, to go, okay, what's needed here for myself? And how can I come back to a space where I am feeling open minded, open hearted to actually listen and be present to the
Yeah.
circumstance? And this kind of goes right into the next question around why is self regulation? How can we consider this a tool to put ourselves first? This podcast is called I Come First, and it's about
Yeah.
deciding, hey, you know what? I get to put on my own oxygen mask first so that I can then help others. And a lot of us
Right.
look at this as we feel guilt around putting ourselves first as women. We want to make sure we're that nurturing, taking care of everybody else. Yet the idea of taking care of ourselves first puts a lot of weight on us as women, I feel like these days.
Yes, and I also know that, like, when I used to hear, like, "Oh, as a mama," like, people are like, "Well, you gotta take care of yourself." And I'd be like, "Are you effing kidding me?" Like, so just so the listener and your viewer knows, I'm 100% solo mama. And up until about, like, a week and a half ago, I was in corporate America, so I was that corporate executive holding everything together, like, 100% financially, spiritually, emotionally, all of it. So I was always carrying a lot. I always had the 12 plates in the air, knowing that I can't drop any of them. Because if one of them drops, who's going to pick it up?
Mm,
So me, I'm always was always running on my vessel, my nervous system being high up, like being at a 7 or 8,
mm,
and I didn't know it. So going back to what you say, like, how can I put myself first? It's imperative that we mamas and women put ourselves first. It's not just a cliche because one, we're not able to fully show up for those around us, our children. For me, it's my daughter. I'm not in a partnered relationship yet. He's coming, I know. And so that's imperative. But more importantly, I'm giving to her. If I'm, I like to look at it as if my cup is full, then anything that is spilt over that's in the saucer, everyone else can drink from. So some of the practices that I have to do to put myself forward, like I know you would ask, like, oh, what are some of the things that you do where I come first? Is every day, almost every day. It's been a little bit less because I'm not as high end with that with my corporate role anymore. But I do a anger release because I have to let that out before I even start
mm.
communicating with my daughter. Because I know I'm carrying so much that I need to lessen and empty out some of that cup.
I love that.
So there's
Yes, and it's
practices.
so important that we fill up our own cup, and you mentioned, the 12 plates in the air and everything that's you're accomplishing in your day-to-day, in the daily. I have a feeling, and I could be wrong, that most of the mamas that might be in a similar position as yours, or even mamas who are in partnership and that partner's, working the full-time job and all the things, there's still a lot.
Or maybe they're
Right.
traveling, because there's a people that, it does you don't even have to be in my
Yeah.
situation.
So I feel like the common question would be, well, how? How do we have time? Where do we put that in our schedules? Like, how does that even exist or fit in? And so I'm wondering, from a solo mama like yourself, who probably works with clients who are either in partnership or without and still doing all the 12 plates in the air, the question of how. What do you recommend?
Yeah. Time is the biggest thing that any mama will tell you. I don't have time. I don't even have time. So it's just taking little increments. Time blocking is a huge thing that I work with my clients is like we've got to schedule it in just like you would your child, soccer or whatever event that they're doing. You have to put it in your calendar and time block.
Absolutely.
And it's a
That.
non-negotiable. And it doesn't have to be very long because this is the other thing that I like to talk about and I know you are very familiar with this, Amie, just the law of diminishing intent. If we can't hold our own selves in integrity to what we want to bring for our lives and say we're going to do for ourselves, we start to lessen if we don't hold true to those to our desires and those that schedule of what you want to put in for your practices, well, your body and your own mind will sit and tell you won't believe you yourself.
Right.
It, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely. And when I'm working with my own clients who are almost always in similar situations, they've got a business, they're CEOs, they're entrepreneurs, they're mamas, they're partners, they've got the family to run and their own lives and their own desires and their own dreams. They ask me, Amie, how? There's no time. How do we do this? And I encourage them, just like you make time to shower, just like you make time to eat, just like you make time, like you said, to put your kids into their sports programs and things like that. It's a necessity. It's not a luxury. And we've been taught that self-care is a luxury. And the reality
Right.
is it's not. It is a necessity. Just like we need to sleep and eat and drink water as human beings to actually function at our fullest and feel good and feel alive and feel energized and feel present, we must be filling up our own cups.
Yes. And I don't even want to, I don't even like to even use the term anymore with my clients, self-love or self-care, because I feel like, again, people feel it's so watered down, like, oh, it's taking a bath or, like getting a massage. Yes, those are luxuries and those are beautiful things to have and to love on yourself with. And this is just a daily practice. Like you said, it's drinking the water, eating the nutrient food. It is the nutrient food you need for your nervous system.
So how can we start creating the conversation of this self-care? This is not a luxury anymore. It is a necessity. How can we start to transform, specifically with mamas who are carrying a lot? How can we start to transform that relationship with self-care into, oh, this is just a part of my daily practice. This is who I am. This is how I be. This is a part of brushing my teeth. This is the same as if I would wash
Wow.
my hair or paint my nails or go to the bathroom.
Yeah. That's a great question. And I think for me, you have to schedule it in that 5 minutes, like scheduling it in. And I feel like there can be resistance, like a mom, like you know me, Amy, you've coached me in some programs and stuff that we've done together. There has been like, well, I just don't have time. Like, how am I going to add one more thing? And I get it, but you just have to trust the process. There has to be just a lack of faith on your part that's like, I'm going to try it
That.
and just do it. But time block it. And just in 5-10 minutes is all you need. Honestly, just start with 5 minutes.
Yes. And that is such a poignant thing to share, is time blocking in small bite-sized pieces. Because if you try and take it all at once in a big giant swoop, it's going to feel like too much. It's going to feel like, I can't do this. It's like saying, I'm going to go to the gym every single day for an hour a day when you know that that doesn't happen in your schedule, right? So what can I do? Well, I can do 15 minutes of workout a day for myself. I can do 5 minutes of journaling for myself. I can do 5 minutes of putting my feet in the grass and feeling the sun in my face and feeling connected to my own body and my own breath. Like it can be that small. It doesn't have to be this big massive change right away. And it's interesting because the more I started noticing when I would be filling up my own cup and really taking time for myself, the more available I was, the more expanded I was to actually hold more in my life.
Yes. And if you feel like to the mamas out there, if you feel like you don't have the time, you're like, I really don't have a moment. Okay, enroll your child to do it with you. So if your child can write or draw while you're journaling for 5 minutes, if it is a journaling practice, for me, I need more physical stuff to get my energy out and to lower my cup, if you will, my personal cup. But dance, put on a song. Kids love to move and just let them feel into their body and just savor the movement of that dance. Not like we're here to play and you tell your child, hey, right now, this is a practice. I'm going to let you be you and me be me. And we're going to just dance however our bodies want us to feel.
Mm.
That's something. And even if I do an anger release with my daughter, I'm like, okay, I need to go release some anger. So I let her, I have my trusty old frying pan over here. Someone taught me that. I literally do.
Show us the frying pan. I love it. I love it. And for those who are listening and going, what the hell is she talking about a frying pan for? The frying pan is a beautiful tool to put two hands on and hit your bed with it
Go to
to let
town.
out your emotions that are there, that are kinking up the hose in our channel, and we want to clear that channel out. So go ahead, Brandon. What else? I love that.
So I enroll my daughter on that. Okay, we're gonna do it together. Like I even let her just take the pillow and pretend you're pillow fighting or something. So there's enroll your child because that is going to one, you're doing two things. If you really don't have the time and you don't think you do, okay, enroll your child to be involved with you in that practice. Two, it's going to teach them beautiful practices, which is even more because right now we're in such a everyone is seeking something more and better, not only for ourselves, but for this next generation that we're rearing. So you're rewiring and rewriting the story for them. So you're being a generational code breaker right then and there, which is going to give them beautiful children.
Yes. And so what I'm hearing underneath all of that is you are being a permission slip for emotions to be okay to express. I grew
Yes.
up in a household where it was not okay to express my emotions. I can't tell you how many times I got yelled at, "Amie, why are you crying? What is wrong with you?" And I just felt so ashamed of these emotions that were coming up that I would hide in my closet, and I would bring everything to my closet with my strawberry shortcake comforter and my books and my dollies and my stuffed animals, and that's where I would go because I felt eventually just so like, "This is wrong. There's something wrong with me." And so
That was
I
your
would
big
go and hide.
need.
And so what I'm hearing is
Yeah.
that you've gotten to a place with your beautiful daughter that it's safe to express. You're teaching her to open up and express herself. And you're teaching her that mama has emotions too. Like, we're all human.
Right.
I think sometimes the
Yeah.
children from the clients that I've worked with who have, little ones and even teenagers, they're wondering, what do I do with all these emotions, especially in that transition of puberty and things like that? And I encourage them to remember that one, you're human. I know you're a parent and you want to be the superhero, and you're still human. So, by giving
Right.
yourself that outlet to be with your kids and teach them that it's safe to feel, to express, whether you're present in the room or not, whatever's comfortable for them, that they create a safe place within the house, within their bodies, that they can express whatever the heck they want. And it is okay. It is all welcomed here.
Yes. Yes. That is so important
And so
for
yes,
yourself.
and so I'm curious now, does Luna ever come to you and say, "Hey, mom, I'm feeling XYZ. Do you wanna go let it out with me?" Or, "Hey, I'm gonna put it," like, does she al now at a point yet where she just says, "Hey, this is what I need," or, "This is how I feel, and I'm gonna go let it out?"
Sometimes she still is a little, so to be quite honest, like you were saying how
Mhm.
your parents, the emotions, my mom has a really hard time with
Mm.
anger. Father since passed, my mom is still alive, but she has a hard time with anger. So, and my mom is in our life, was in our life quite a bit, like every 6 weeks coming to come and visit us to help me lessen some of my load, honestly, while I was doing my corporate role too. So Luna doesn't quite come yet, but she'll tell me, I think we just need some time and we need a break. Or she'll literally, she's told me, Mama, I think it's time for you go to Austin and see, go to Bridge and Extreme.
I love that. That's what's so
So
great about kids. They're so brutally honest and no filter, like zero filter,
no,
because what I'm hearing is that you create a space for them to say what's true, what's alive, what's
yeah,
there. And that's so
yeah.
beautiful because what a mirror, right? What a reflection to be like, "Hey mom, I think you need to let some of that out."
So then that's like that's also,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that she can come to me with that and
Sure.
feel safe enough because I was never safe enough to tell my parents,
Absolutely. I love
I think
that.
I need a timeout, like I probably would have been given a timeout and then a spanking or a slap or, or definitely would have been shame for
Sure,
it.
for sure, for sure.
Um,
Yes, one of the
yeah,
things, that I've been really having fun with my clients who are mamas, and they have younger ones who are learning emotions, and, that 90 seconds to process is usually all it
yeah,
takes. However, as we get older, we end up, like you said, kinking the hose on it because there might be shame there or guilt or it's not accepted in the household. And so what I've been having fun with is giving them a space in the house that's the place. Like, this is where we go when this is
yeah.
coming up, and this is the safe place. Like, this is the, you know?
So important to have an emotional corner of your house or space or their room or whatever. Yes. That's beautiful that you do that because it's so
Yes, it
important.
really is. And I love the idea that you were sharing earlier around let's do it together so that I
Yeah.
get the opportunity to fill up my own cup. Let's give them an activity that might be similar, and you can still find that time and create that space for yourself as a mama to say, "Hey, this is important to me." Now, I'm also wondering, let's talk about boundaries for a second, because
Um,
what if the child is like, "No, I don't want to." Fill in the blank, they're in that stubborn moment of, "I don't wanna dance, I don't wanna color, I don't wanna write, I don't wanna draw, I don't wanna," fill in, whatever it is that they're
yeah.
resisting, or how do you work through that?
Television or screen time.
Mm,
That's a permission slip. We don't do a lot of television or screen time. But everyone has their own, and there's no judgment for what each parent chooses to do. But to me, that's like your immediate permission to go put him in front of a screen for a
Mm.
bit. Okay, that's fine. You don't want this? Well, this is what I need for me. And here's my phone, or here's the television. And probably the television's a better thing because you have it's more boundaried. For me, I like a television. Okay, well, you'll put this on. And then when I'm done, the television turns off and now we're going to go do this. So yeah, again, redirecting them to something else, and they don't always have to be enrolled in
Mhm.
it.
And I think that's so amazing that you practice that because it's teaching your child as well that your needs that are going to support her in the long run are a top priority. And therefore, she might not logically get it now, but even if you said, "Hey baby, this is for us later on, or this is for you later on, so mama's not feeling so overwhelmed, so mama can be present with you." And I know
Yeah.
sometimes they won't
Yes.
get and understand all of that. However, you're setting that precedence of you get to choose, right? You the power of choice of here's where I'm at right now. This is what I need, and it's really important that I do this.
That's where your I come first, is coming in. Like, I have to do this for me. And like you said, they may not understand it or not be able to process it, but just the fact that you're doing it is teaching them how to do it in the future, because we tend to mirror our children
Of
mirror us.
course.
Even if anything we do, they mirror us. So they're going to mirror that too in a relationship. Hey, I'm still going to go do this, even though you want to do this. Maybe, and hopefully she'll be able to communicate stuff like that on the playground or where with friends or whatever, if it doesn't sit
Exactly.
with her and she.
Well, you're teaching her to speak up for herself because you're speaking up for yourself. And
Yeah.
that is really powerful, especially I feel as a little girl. There
Yes.
is, in my experience of the moms that I do work with, most of them have children between the ages of like 5 to say 13ish right now. And they're in this point in their upbringing that there is some, well, we called it teasing growing up, but now it's like a bullying. The word bullying comes in. And there is that dynamic on the playground or in the classroom or in the hallways at school. And it's really I would shut down personally. I got bullied in school, which my parents, "Oh, you're just being teased. It's okay." And they brushed it under the rug. When the truth was,
Right.
I felt so scared to go on the playground that I took odd jobs during recess just so I could stay inside and not have to be in that situation where I was the last girl picked for the kickball team or whatever it might be. And so you're giving her a voice by using your own voice. You're practicing. She's practicing. Oh, I get to ask her what I need. I get to stand up for myself. I get to set these boundaries. This is awesome. And so I just
Yes.
really kudos to you for implementing that in the household because you're right. That's where it gets mirrored. It gets mirrored there first,
Thank
and that's how we show up in our lives.
Yeah. And I also want a presence. I'm not perfect, nor
You're
do I want
not?
to
Wait,
show
what?
that. So as much as my perfectionist would love to come out, and I'm not doing everything right. I mess up. I too have the mama guilt and the shame that I get going and forget it. I'm on the shame train, and by and I'm off to to the races. But it's just the little things that we don't have. That's what I want to present, because it's just starting to do things a little differently is all it takes. And I think one of my mentors, and I know you've heard this as well, says mastery is in the crevices. Doesn't have to be the Grand Canyon, change that you're looking to see. It's in those little tiny spaces
I love
and
before we
where the
wrap up our conversation, I wanna hear because you said the word guilt, and I know there's a listener out there going, "Oh my god, that's what I struggle with. I feel so guilty." Talk to us about that. How does one move through that? How do you move through that?
uh,
Maybe that'll just help somebody.
so I'll give you three tools or three little things that like to use, and it can be used for anything. And this is anyone at any time. So first of all, if you are suffering from the mama guilt, there's the 3 C's that I like to have. They are awareness, acceptance, and then action. So the awareness is like, oh, what are you feeling? The guilt. Oh, I'm feeling really
Mhm.
guilty because of whatever. okay, what can I do? Okay, I need to accept it. So get to a place of accept where you can accept where you're at in that moment with that situation. Then the next step is what action can I take
Mm,
to do something different, like do something with my left hand or yeah, so what is the next action that I can take to help me get out of it? And usually it's something related in the nervous system, regulating my body, doing something that is going to
mm.
help me change what's going on
I
up
love
here.
that. So the 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, and actions, right? I love that. What a juicy tool to start practicing right now today. I think I can definitely start that.
It can be used everything,
Anything,
anything and
anything
everything,
at all, anything at
any
all. It
situation,
will
which I
and
love.
that's what it's about, Brandon. When we are in a situation where we're feeling, our body's communicating, you can almost always feel it bubbling up. The throat might get tight, the palms might get sweaty, and you're like, oh my gosh, like what's here? And maybe it is presencing, okay, I simply feel this in my body. Sometimes just saying it out loud. Wow, I'm presencing this is
Yes,
what I'm feeling right now. Wow, well, where's my mind been? What's going on in my own mind? What's happening? Oh, the thoughts were down this worry of finances or worry of, you know, grandma's coming to visit and her and I aren't on the best terms right now. Like, who knows? Our minds
right.
are so powerful. And so it is really the power of the pivot.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. These are really great. So, awareness, acceptance, and action. Mm, powerful, powerful. Okay, so Brandon, how can people find you? What's the best way to connect with
The
you?
best way to find me and connect with me is on Instagram at being Brandon, Brandan, and you'll find
Yes,
me.
and all of that will be in the show notes for our listener who's like, I want to connect with Brandon. Please do so. She is an epic human being and she's a powerful coach. She's an inspiring mama bear and she's nurturing AF to everybody she comes in contact with. Like, it is incredible how nurturing you are
Oh,
from an authentic place, to be honest. Like, sometimes I can see people like, oh, they're just kind of sprinkling and it's just, anyway, I'm not gonna judge others because I'm probably judging myself right now. So, I wanna just share that. Like, it really is beautiful to watch you
thank
navigate
you.
your coaching world, the worlds that we're in together as we're in leadership together and learning and growing and just as a friend, as a beautiful sister in my life. So, thank you so much. Is there
Thank you.
anything
Like,
that you want to share as we start to wrap this up? Is there anything else that you're like, "Oh, I really wanna share this one last thing?"
no, I felt like we did a perfect circle in the amount of time.
Amazing,
Thank you.
amazing.
Happy.
And is there any last bits around, like, your particular I come first practice that is your absolute non-negotiable on the daily? Is there anything there?
It is my frying pan or doing the anger release because like I said, I have so much.
I am curious. What if someone says, "Well, I don't have any anger," or "I'm not an angry person," or what if you on that day go, I don't really feel angry right now."
There's something that always
So,
comes up.
basically
Our body stuffing stuff that we don't even realize. And how many times I've been working with a client or been in workshops where I don't really have anger. And usually like those are the ones that have the most anger because you don't realize it what is being stuffed inside of you. So for me, I still do it because I know it's going to be helpful. As I said, I've been a little bit lax this past week, to be honest. That is a non-negotiable where I'm like, no. I just was telling myself, I'm like, why are you not doing it? You need to do
So
it.
it sounds like start the darn practice anyway and simply go in with
Yes.
curiosity and see what comes
Yes.
up, and that's it. Without any judgment, without any having to have something at the forefront of your mind, just simply start the practice and see what comes up.
Yes, and and something may not, and maybe that's not your practice, but that is for me because I know I carry so
It's one of
much.
my favorites too, not gonna
Yeah.
lie. Anyway, okay, so for our listener, I highly encourage you to go in to Brandon's IG and send her a message and say, "Hey, I heard your conversation on the I Come First podcast," and just say hello and let her
Yes,
pour
just say hi.
into you. Thank you, Brandon, for coming in, for sharing your life, your joy, your passion, your wisdom around mamas, being a solo mama, calling in that king, that partnership that I know is already here energetically, and now it just gets to come up in the in this reality that we live in. And thank
Yes.
you so much, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Are you in
Sure.
Portland? I don't remember. Portland. I imagine the weather is absolutely epic this time of year there. All right, my
Right.
sister, I will see you soon. Thank you for all of your love
All
and
right.
your
Love you. Thank
bye.
you.